will call the meeting to order, and we would, if everyone would please rise, and Councilwoman Kathy White will lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilmember White. Good evening, and welcome to the January 15th study session of the Livonia City Council. This meeting sets the agenda for the 1,889th regular meeting, a voting meeting that will take place on Monday, January 27th, 2020. We have everyone from council here with us this evening. Would anybody from council, I don't have any announcements, would any council have any
Madam Chair?
announcements to make? Yes, Councilmember Donovan.
Got two announcements. One, my little brother, he's a student at Johnson Elementary. Tonight, he's getting his yellow belt in karate over at United Karate at Middle Belton 5 Mile. So he was a little upset that I couldn't make it, but I told him I had to work. So I want to give him a big congratulations. And then I want to recognize a few of my friends in the local Livonia JC chapter. They are newly appointed members of the JC chapter board. I'm not sure their specific titles, but the JCs are a long, active organization in the city that does all sorts of different community activities. There's been many members on council that have sat or have been a part of the JCs, and I've heard rumors that another city council member might be joining the JCs eventually. So just like to acknowledge them and all the hard work that you do in our community. And thank you for being here tonight. I look forward to seeing you guys, and maybe you can bring the new board here and come introduce all of yourselves to City Council. And tomorrow, the JCs are actually having a fundraiser at Mod's Pizza from 4 to 8 p.m., and they're raising money to do things so we can give back to the community. So, thank you.
Madam President?
Yes.
So
Councilmember McCullough.
we had a ribbon cutting ceremony for Anastasia and Katie's Coffee Company, which was remarkable. I think that I overheard, I mean, there were hundreds of people there. I would welcome anybody out there that's listening to this to please take time and visit. That is on the, I think, the northwest corner of 7 and Merriman. And it's a wonderful organization. They hire employees with special needs, and we want to keep that business rolling. So please check them out and be a good patrons to them.
I'm glad you mentioned that, and it's the brainchild of two parents, both of whom have 13-year-old daughters with Down syndrome. One is Anastasia and one is Katie, and they created a nonprofit called My Works, and the first project of the nonprofit has been putting together this coffee shop. And again, Anastasia and Katie's, they have a Facebook page, and it's a phenomenal organization. A number of the employees spoke about how happy they were to find a place for them to go to work, and their business is going to need our continued patronage, and it was great to see hundreds there yesterday. I know Mr. Barr was there, and our mayor, and a number of other folks were there. Susan Nash, our clerk, was there. Linda Shield was there. I think I said our mayor. I know I'm missing some people, but it was phenomenal, and we need to continue to patronize it and show that our community supports ventures and inclusive employment. So thank you for mentioning that, Mr. McCullough. Anyone else?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Jolly.
I would like to make a motion to direct our city attorney's office to draft an ordinance amendment that accounts for provisions of the Michigan Open Meetings Act that would allow our new colleague, Mr. Donovic, to attend city council meetings in a different way when he is deployed for military service or when he is on call and not available to be here. It's my understanding from speaking to Mr. Bernier and Clerk Nash that these provisions are in the State Open Meetings Act, and I think we need to take advantage of them, and Mr. Bernier has told me that he is ready, willing, and able to do so. Thank you.
If the motion, I ask that the motion also include any other boards. Actually, the Open Meeting Act doesn't talk about council directly, it talks about boards and commissions. So I don't know of any other one that might fit, but we'd like to have the ordinance fitted for everybody, anybody who's in the military service, who is call up, that they can participate in the meetings. So thank you for that. We will draft an ordinance.
Yes, and I have my motion account for what Mr. Bernier said.
Thank you,
Thank you.
and so that'll be voted on at our next meeting on the 27th.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to say on behalf of everyone in the military that I appreciate and sincerely, I'm very humbled that the city would have that kind of foresight, and I appreciate all my colleagues here on city council. It's the greatest honor of my life to serve in the military, and there are a lot of members of the military that serve in different capacities throughout other cities throughout the state and country, and it means a lot that the city is doing this. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Bernier, for looking into that and finding a,
I do have to thank the clerk, Ms. Nash, who brought it to our attention. She told me she's got to get credit for it. So, just so I don't get in trouble, Ms. Nash brought it up to our attention, and we looked into it, and the provision is there.
Ms. Nash, is there anyone you need to thank for bringing it to our attention? All right. All right, we will proceed then with our agenda. Tonight's meeting is a study meeting. There are no votes taken. However, the council members will offer either one resolution or a combination of resolutions for each item. The resolutions offered may include an approving, denying, or referring resolution to a committee or city department for its report and recommendation. A resolution of no further action may also be offered. There are some items that will simply be received and filed from the information of City Council. Please note that all of the items on tonight's agenda will move on to the regular meeting of Monday, January 27th, 2020, where they will officially be voted on. If you'd like to participate in any of the agenda items that are taken up this evening, please approach one of the podiums on either side of the room when the item is called, and you will be recognized at the appropriate time. Generally, the petitioner, whether that is a city or a private entity, will make the initial presentation, followed by remarks from those in the audience wishing to speak. So please come to the podium when the item is called. When you reach the podium and you're recognized, please state your name and, if you'd like to, your address for the record so that your remarks can be properly attributed to you in the minutes for this meeting. It will also let the television audience and the members of City Council know who is speaking on the item. And with that, we will move into our agenda for this evening. The first item of new business, item number. I thought I did that, I'm sorry. Audience communication, at this time, I'd like to invite anyone from the audience who'd like to address the council on any item not on this evening's agenda to do so. Right, thank you, Mr. Jolly. Seeing none, then we will now proceed with our new business. Item number 1 is a request to waive the city's noise ordinance. This comes to us from Robert Race from the Knights of Columbus to allow a car show with a DJ at St. Colette Catholic Church, 17600 Newburgh Road, on Saturday, June 6, 2020, from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m.
Madam Chair. I'd like to offer this for the consent agenda if there's no,
Well, generally, we go to the petitioner, which,
Okay.
thank you, which I believe Mr.
So,
Jolly is going to represent.
thank you, Madam President. I am a member of the Dooley Knights of Columbus, and I am standing in for Mr. Race tonight, who I've known for approximately 25 years. This is the 4th year that we've had this car show at St. Colette. There have been no noise complaints that I am aware of. I think it's either accounting for them not being a rowdy bunch or the fact that Father Gary is keeping them well under control. So I'd ask my colleagues here tonight to let us continue doing this for the 4th year, and then hopefully going forward as well. And
Madam President.
Are there any questions? Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Jelly, who's representing the petitioner? All right, seeing none,
As a fellow knight and 3rd degree, I'd like to offer this for the consent agenda if there's no,
all right, any objections? Seeing none, we'll place that on the consent agenda. So, Mr. Jelly, you do need to come back.
thank you all.
It was good.
Thank you all.
All right, item number 2 is a request to extend professional services agreement for the emergency medical transportation billing. This comes to us from Livonia Fire and Rescue for a 5-year contract at 5.9% of the amount collected from budgeted funds. Good evening, Chief Hebner.
Good evening, Madam President and fellow council. I'm here tonight to request an approving resolution to extend the professional service agreement to Acumed Billing Services. This will be the 3rd time that it's been renewed. They have a proven track record with us through providing us a high quality of service, positive working relationships, continuity of service, and a consistent data collection for us. We do generate a significant amount of revenue through this process, and the renewal is proposing a 0.5% reduction over the next 5 years, going from 6.4% to 5.9%, for an estimated savings of about $139,000 over the 5 years. So I'm asking for that approval to be made.
Thank you, Chief. Council, are there any questions
I'll-
of the Chief?
I have no questions. I was going to say I'll offer this for approving on consent if there's no objection.
All right, seeing no objections, that it will be on the consent agenda, and Chief, it's your option whether you'd like to come back and see us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you, Dave.
Item number 3 is an award of bid. This comes to us from Departments of Park and Recreation of various items of clothing for the years 2020 and 2021, departmental needs from budgeted funds. Good evening, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Council President. Ted Davis, representing Parks and Recreation. As you can see, we literally have gone down and we're asking council to award the low bid on each item here. 8 companies' bids, and we have split up the bid significantly. I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have on this.
Madam President?
Yes, Mr. McCullough.
I don't really have a question, but Mr. Davis, just to kind of let the public know, for the thousands of people that are viewing this right now, there's 29 line items. And, you know, the bidding process, you could go through and it looks like there's 8 firms. I want to commend the staff for going through 29 different articles of clothing and selecting the low bid. That shows fiscal responsibility for going the extra mile, and please commend your staff for taking the
I will.
extra step.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCullough.
And with that, I would be fine to offer an approving resolution for consent.
All right, seeing no objections, that'll be placed on the consent agenda.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Davis.
Can you use what you save on basketball nets?
You're not very good at basketball, are you?
Not anymore, I'm not, no.
All right, item number 4 is also an award of bid. This also comes to us from the Department of Parks and Recreation for the Botsford Pool Pump replacement from budgeted funds. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Council President. We are asking the council award this project to Aquatic Source as the low bidder. This will be done prior to the opening of Botsford, so there'll be no delay. Again, this is for a motor, a pump, and the strainer housing. I'd be happy to answer any questions council might have on this.
Council?
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Jolly.
I think the packet provides the information that shows that this is necessary. It's apparent to me, and I think to most people, the need to continue to invest in the Botsford Pool. That's a source of great pride and great joy, particularly in that neighborhood. And with the renovations that we did just a couple of years ago, it really is a significant improvement over what it used to be. So I'm happy to offer an approving for consent. Thank you.
All right, seeing no objections, we'll place that on the consent agenda. Thank
Thank
you
you
very
very
much, Mr. Davis. Number 5 is an award of bid. This comes to us from the Division of Police for perimeter security fencing of the public safety complex from budgeted funds. Good evening, Chief.
Good evening, Madam President, members of council. Chief Curtis Cate on behalf of the Police Department, representing on this item for your consideration. I'm appearing before you to request your approval and award of bid on a project, quite frankly, that we've identified for a number of years, but plan on undertaking with your permission and approval this year in 2020. The security of the public safety complex, which includes both the police and the fire department, the rear lot area that contains a number of sensitive equipment, access points, including our prisoner housing, is vulnerable to folks that can basically walk in, drive in without really being detected, quite frankly, and many times and occasions. There have been incidents nationwide where public safety officials have been assaulted, one most recently down in Arkansas where a police officer was in the lot of his building when he was basically executed as he sat in his police car. This project, we've identified, we've looked at different aspects of it. Want to maintain, of course, the goal of security, costs, and aesthetics as well. The aesthetic part most important to what is viewed publicly along Farmington Road and Civic Center. I've had some discussion and appreciate the support of council on this item. And in our letter, which I'll spend a little bit of time on going through some of the specifics of this project, we worked very closely with Don Roraff and Doug Moore at DPW and their support in this. I want to thank them for all their time and effort that they've put forward. Certainly our city engineer, Todd Zelinczyk, and Rick Grodick. They've been out there walking the site with us when the weather was a little bit more balmy. But nonetheless, in our preparation, I appreciate their support. Jerome Hanna and then Chief Hevner, his staff, and Ina Batchelor working with the Finance Department to develop the specs, set the timeline, meet with the vendors, which we had a mandatory walkthrough with the vendors to ensure that they knew the scope of our project. So before you are the specifics that were developed and essentially along Farmington Road and, or the area that's visible through Farmington Road and the front lot of the police station along Civic Center would contain a 7-foot high fence that will have different access points that would still allow us to have community functions on the public safety grounds, but also maintain that level of security. Along the east end would then turn into a vinyl covered chain link fence and would have the 3-strand security wire at the top along the eastern end, along the rear perimeter of the parking complex, and then up towards the fire department, where there again it would assume the more aesthetically pleasing security fencing that is in the packet. There were initially 7 contractors that appeared for the walkthrough. 5 submitted bids. A process was established with the Finance Department, a scoring process based on a number of different factors: experience, qualifications, the proposed cost, references, and the project approach. And with that, the decision was on the committee with the high score of being upright fence at 94.42, rounding up, at a cost of $242,790. This company, it was ironic, at the time that we were out doing a walkthrough, there was some concrete work being done over at the fire department, and we approached the foreman, actually the owner of the cement company, and he asked us what we were doing, basically getting into his business, and we're explaining that we're looking at a fence progress. And he says, "I'll tell you who to use," and it was upright fence. Without any prompting by us, it was just one of those random things which made us feel good when about this recommendation as we approach this stage. So with that, doing the analysis, it is our recommendation that we accept the bid, or the council accepts the bid of Upright Fence, who's located on Ford Road. They have a long-standing experience with the city of Livonia in different projects. Speaking with the DPW director, Mr. Roraff, he is very familiar with them as well and had nothing but good things to say about their service and their commitment to professionalism and basically doing the job right the first time. So we feel very comfortable with that, and we feel that this project is really quite a necessity for the safety of our staff and for the security of our facility. In my letter, it indicates a number of concerns that are important for us to consider as far as what that building houses and the potential vulnerabilities. And with that, I will turn it over to Chief Hevner from the Fire Department with whatever he would choose to add, and then, of course, any questions that council might have. Chief?
Again, good evening, council. I'll keep it real short. Chief K did an excellent job summarizing the project that has been in progress, and I'm here tonight to just show support for that project. It has been a joint effort for all of the same security reasons that Chief K has outlined. We share all of those concerns with the fire department as well, and obviously the fence encompasses collectively the property for both police and fire department. So we would definitely be in support of this project as well.
Thank you, Chief. Chief?
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Chief, looking at the drawing here, basically the fencing is to keep in areas where officers and emergency responders park and do, city business. That's closed off, but the open lot in the front is the same as it always has been?
That's correct. The front parking lot, the public area would remain as it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Jolly?
So first, I'll say that if we were to build a police department and possibly a fire headquarters today, this fence would be one of the first things that would be put in, and the parameters would be set out. We do have a precedent for some security fencing like this already in the city at the 16th District Court. The staff and employee parking lot is fenced in.
Correct.
So I think this is completely compatible with that, and obviously there's a need in the society today. Policing's not what it once was. It does not necessarily get the respect it deserves. So I'm happy to offer an approving. I think this is, although a big expenditure, I think it's something that can be placed on consent. We had the opportunity to speak to you, Chief, throughout the day in regards to different concerns. I think you know what my concern is, and I'll take you for your word that we're gonna try and work around that particular concern. But otherwise, I think it's a necessity and something that, in the long run, if it avoids one negative situation, it's well worth the money.
Thank
So,
you, I appreciate
sir.
that.
Before I go to Mr. Donovic, I just have a quick question, Chief. This came in right around where we had seen it because we saw this in the capital budget, right? And this is right
correct.
around where we thought it was gonna come in, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Actually, a little bit cheaper than what we anticipated.
That's what I thought. I was trying to remember. Thank you, Mr. Donovic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, I've been a reserve police officer 5+ years now. I've spent a lot of time at different agencies across the state. It's very common for police agencies across our state to have this sort of perimeter fencing. While extremely unfortunate, the reality of today's world is officers are a target. Many officers have been ambushed in recent years, and we've seen that over the media. So I'm definitely in support of this, and we need to give a space for our officers to feel safe when they're conducting their business. So I think this is a great idea.
Thank you.
All right, no further questions. We've got it on consent.
I just make a final comment.
Please.
I mean, we're very blessed that we live and work in the community that we do. And Livonia is a safe community. And I just want to make sure that, the folks at home realize that, you see bad things happen across the nation. And, the common theme that you hear people say is, I never thought it would happen here. And it's a tragedy. And our effort in this is just being aware of the issues that are out there today and how unpredictable things are. There's a national security concern with this as well. So it's a significant issue, and certainly as both myself and Chief Heavner, we have a responsibility of our staff as well to ensure their safety as best as we reasonably can. And I feel this project will accomplish that. And I want to thank each of you for your support, not only with this, but in our endeavors on a daily basis. My officers certainly appreciate it, and I do personally as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. And item number 6 is a request to authorize purchase of 40 Dell desktop workstations through the state of Michigan bid process. This also comes to us from the Division of Police to replace approximately 50% of the police department's workstations from budgeted funds. Chief.
It's here in this stack that I have to find. I can tell you that what I recall, thank you, is that this proposal replaces about half of our desktop workstations in the police department, which are at least 5 years old and at end of life and no longer under warranty. We would, if approved by council, we would be asking to waive the sealed bid process and utilize the state of Michigan contract bidding for this purchase. These would be Dell. The specifics of it are Dell Precision 3630 tower desktop units, 40 of them at just over $900 a piece, with a total expenditure of budgeted funds of $36,300 $38 rounded up.
Thank you, Chief. Questions? Counsel?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd be happy to offer the approving resolution on consent, if there's no objection.
All right.
Thank you, council.
Seeing no objections, that'll be on the consent. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Chief, and thank you, Chief Hebner, for everything you and your organizations do every day for all of us in our community. We will go back to the audience for audience communication. All right, seeing none, we will adjourn. We are adjourned. Good night, Livonia.